So when I say witch trials, I know your brain immediately goes to Salem. Pilgrims, Puritans, the woods, the Crucible. Did you watch that with Winona Ryder in a bonnet? And we all think the Salem witch trials started with some Puritan girls freaking out in Massachusetts, right? But what if I told you the whole thing may have actually started with a woman from the Caribbean? This woman's name was Tituba. Now, in a lot of these historical records, Tituba is described as Black, but her background was probably more complex, like a mix of African, Indigenous, South American, and Caribbean. It's possible she was originally from South America, where she might have been kidnapped by Catholic missionaries, forced to be baptized, and then renamed. But it's hard to know for sure. What we do know is that when Tituba was really young, she wound up in Barbados. Now, Barbados is in the Caribbean, and, it was not a vacation destination back then. In the 1600s, Barbados was the capital of the British slave trade. So most of the people living there were wealthy white men or enslaved people who were working on their sugar plantations. It was just a really brutal, violent place to be. Tituba is like a little toddler. She's in the Barbados, and I guess she ends up getting snatched up to work on one of these sugar plantations. Now, at some point, she starts working for a businessman named Samuel Paris. Samuel turned out to not be a great businessman, and he ended up leaving Barbados totally broke, but not empty-handed, because he took Tituba with him. And guess where he settled down? Salem, Massachusetts. Now, this is how Tituba comes to be the only enslaved person of color working in this town, working for Samuel. Samuel ends up becoming the Reverend in Salem, and he's like the moral hall monitor of the town. Now, he was always preaching about purity, staying free from sin, and how everyone else needed to get their act together. Cover your ankles, you slut. So he is like Mr. Moral Police, right? Even though he himself had no problem doing a little human trafficking, but everyone else is a problem, okay? And he was there to protect them and guide them. Now, Reverend Paris was very obsessed with optics, how he appeared to the town. He wanted his family to appear as this perfect, model Puritan family that the whole church could look up to. So everything's great, right? No, it's not, Bailey. Which is why it was incredibly embarrassing when his very own daughter and his niece claimed to be possessed. So fast forward a couple of years. We're there. Tituba is living in Salem. She's working in the home of Reverend Samuel Paris. And by this point, Samuel has a wife, and he also has a young daughter named Betty. Also living with him is his niece, Abigail. So Tituba, she was the one raising the girls, So it's 1692, and it's wintertime. And people really aren't, they're not living comfortable lives in America, okay? There's barely any food. No one is great at farming this new land. So people are hungry. And when you're hungry, they're getting angry. On top of all of this, the people are Puritans. And when you're a Puritan, you're very religious, to the extreme. I mean, they literally left England because their religious views were too extreme for mainstream society. So they were paranoid, extremely religious, hungry, cold, bored, desperate, right? So at this point, this is when Samuel Paris's daughter, Betty, and his niece, Abigail, they suddenly start behaving oddly, like they were possessed. They were screaming, convulsing, claiming that there were things no one could see hurting them. Oh, God. They probably just had a migraine. You ever get really hungry and thirsty and you get a bad migraine and you're just kind of screaming and something's hurting you and you don't know what it is because it's a migraine? I wonder if they thought about that. And that's not the point though. So this is happening. Migraines, huh? They'll get you. So when Daddy Samuel asked the children, who is behind all of this? Who's doing this to you? Where is this coming from? They point to Tituba. It's like, oh no. So this is where you would like expect, something terrible to happen, right? Like Tituba get dragged into court, and for a man in one of those like curly white wigs to sentence her to be like burned alive. But Tituba, she wasn't going down without a fight. People of Salem are accusing Tituba of witchcraft, which was essentially like a one-way ticket to the noose. But Tituba knew what was up, okay? And she wasn't just gonna stand there and let these people tell her what she did. So she's thinking, and she's thinking fast. Now, instead of denying it, like most of us would do, I'm not a witch. No, I like to go outside sometimes. I don't know. She was like, no, I'm not doing that. And she gives them everything. She goes all in. She does exactly what she knows they want her to do. So they're making these accusations. You're a witch. And she's like, yes. And she starts talking about how she saw strange animals like wolves, birds, and even a hairy creature that walked like a man. She's like, are they believing me? Yeah? Okay. It was crazy. You should have been there. She tells them, the devil came to me and he had a book with names in it. She then tells them that she saw other women in the village sign their names in the book in blood. Oh, yes. And she's like, but I didn't sign it. I saw them do it, but I said, no, I'm not signing that. That's crazy. No. But I saw them do it. Then she tells them, because she's like, oh, plus I saw a lot more, you guys. Just wait. You know what else I saw? I saw these women flying in the air. Yeah, you guys are all asleep. The women are out there flying in the air. And then to top it off, guess what? These women, they bewitched the children. That's right. It was me. I saw all this. So everyone's losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, what? What is happening? Flying in the air? Signing a book in blood? What is happening in this town? And like low key, and this is why I love Tituba, she's like, look, if I'm going down, you bitches are going down with me, okay? Yeah, I saw these hoes flying in the air, and I saw demons, and I saw blood and stuff. Yep. You're not gonna blame me. I'm not going down for you dumbasses. I churn your butter, okay? You need me. And I love her for it, because she's like, you're all coming down with me. This whole situation was, it was pretty cinematic. It was very theatrical. And the Puritan authorities were eating it up. They were sitting there like, what? I knew it. There's proof now that Satan is here. And to them, Tituba was like backing them up and proving that, they were right to be paranoid. And maybe you haven't caught on by now, but Tituba, she wasn't possessed. And she wasn't confessing to anything. She was playing the game, okay? And she was performing. She was storytelling, and she was giving them what they want, okay? She knew what these people wanted from her, and she knew how they viewed her. So she was like, you know what? You want a show? Fine, buckle up. Bitches be flying. But maybe you're thinking, Bailey, how was she so good at thinking up of like all these strange stories on the fly? Well, our expert for this episode, Marian Gibson, points out that a lot of these images of the animals and the devil probably came from stories that Tituba was told when she was young, growing up. And she knew all about the devil because she was raised with religion. Once Tituba dropped the fact that she had seen other women in the village signing the devil's book, she had them eating out of the palm of her hand. They were like, Tituba, who was it? Tell us, who signed the devil's book? Now, one thing about, working for everyone in this town was that Tituba overheard a lot of gossip. So, she had some things, she knew some shit. So Tituba, she already knew who Reverend Paris didn't like, and she just like leaned into that. So she started naming those people. She's like, yeah, your neighbor, Sarah Smith, I saw her do it. Yeah. Remember that guy who did bad tiling in your bathroom? That guy, I saw him. Remember that woman who just like spoke? She she did it. So Tituba is just naming all these people. And after this, witch accusations started to spread like wildfire. People used any grudge they had been holding on to as an excuse to claim witch. And everyone just turned on each other. Remember when Sarah borrowed your stockings and didn't give them back? Witch. Remember when Abigail bit into an apple funny and we were like, ew, witch. Remember that one time when Susie overslept? Witch. Or if someone coughed funny? Witch. It was crazy. They were bored. They needed a hobby. I don't think coloring was invented yet. So, technically, Tituba had confessed. She handed the court this incredible demonic fever dream story of blood oaths, a man in black, the devil, flying people. She was technically guilty, but she doesn't get executed. Instead, the court keeps her around because her confession was useful and she was full of valuable information. She was given names. She was talking. So Tituba is put in jail. Now, jail sucks. Awful place to be. You're chained up. It's cold. It's awful, whatever. But at this point, it was better to be in jail than outside because at this point, the witch trials, it was out of control. It was spiraling. Dozens of people were getting accused. Neighbors were turning on each other. Children were testifying against their parents. Yeah, it was insane. And then the executions began. So people, were being put to death for witchcraft. And Tituba, she's over there just flying under the freaking radar. Now, I thought maybe her boss / trafficker, Reverend Paris, would bail her out. But no, he was too busy defending his own role in this disaster. He was trying to keep his job, his reputation, and his neck. So he doesn't visit, he doesn't pay to get her out, he does not care. Now, the weird thing is, we don't know exactly what happened to Tituba next. Because eventually, someone, an unnamed person, pays her jail fees. Someone pays to get her out, and she gets out, and then she just disappears from the record. Boof. Gone. Good for her. No one writes about what happened to her after. There's no trial transcript. There's no execution notice, no burial even. It's very interesting. Some scholars believe that she was sold again. Others think that she may have died shortly after the release. I like to think she made it out of there and she just laid low and went off and started somewhere else. Some people say Tituba was just the servant girl who told the girls scary stories. But the truth is, Tituba was scapegoated simply because she was different and she was smart enough to dodge a crazy bullet. And that's where you get a little torn, because I respect what she did. She was looking out for herself and she was like, I'm not going down, you're all going down with me, F you guys. But at the same time, she did unleash this monsoon of hate that had just been building up in Salem for years. I think it would have happened regardless, because at the end of the day in Salem, a total of 25 people died as a result of the witchcraft hysteria that started in Reverend Paris's house. 20 were executed, 19 of those were hanged, and one person was pressed to death with stones. And then there were 5 people who died in prison while awaiting trial. The last thing I'll say about Tituba that makes me feel like she was special is her name. Historians have apparently searched high and low, digging through dusty records, and guess what? Nothing. No other Titubas exist, which made her records really stand out and really obvious when she vanished from them completely. You know that game, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? It's where in the world is Tituba? I would love to know, what happened to her? What happened to her? I would love, yeah, we don't know.